Alright, this is the Ford 2.0 Turbo out of the Ford Edge 2013 model, limited. And this is a Dorman aftermarket harmonic balancer crank pulley. And these are pressed on as opposed to the OEM, which just slide on and then are tightened down with just force. So I want to show why it is that you shouldn't get one of these. I've had to take one off before. See, they don't spin the bolts out of it. So a couple things about it. One, there's really no room behind it to get anything in there. Two, there's a piece of rubber underneath here that helps with the dampening, right? So when you start to pull this off, it's going to pull the rubber away from the metal, as I've done in the past and had to use a grinder on it. So now what I'm going to try is trying to get my 3-jaw puller behind this piece of metal, but I have to cut this black ring out to be able to fit the jaw puller behind it. So I'm gonna take my grinder, I'm gonna cut that and see if it makes room for it. Alright, watch your ears. I'm gonna give you a little demonstration here. I'm gonna go all the way around like that. Okay, so I've got my notch cut, but it's not deep enough to get my big guy back there. So I'll use the next size down and it fits back behind there. It's just that it's pretty worn out from the last time I had to use it for this. So I'm going to cut out 2 more notches and see if I can get it behind there. Okay, so as you grind it, you get close, you have to take a cold chisel or something to that effect and help knock it out, because you can't get the grinder all the way in there. And then you'll have to take your pliers and poke at it a little bit. And then you've got this rubber that's in here. You gotta just use your utility knife and get that backed out of the way. Alright, so I've got the crank bolt in. It's backed out about 6 threads, and then I'm going to put a little guy here on it. Alright, little change of plans. I ended up cutting farther back to get my big guy in here because the little jaw puller just was struggling with the length, and also because I've used it so much, the threads are kind of jacked. So I just cut it back a little bit farther, and this is still only about 6 threads or so. So we're going to give it some turns and see what happens. Well, I pulled the center sleeve back. Let's take this bolt out, see what's happening in there. Okay, so this metal piece is actually attached to the rubber, as you can see there. So I'm gonna have to try the other method that I used. Okay, so I got the big puller back up on here on the outside of the pulley. And the idea is just to get this pulled back enough to give me a little bit of a gap back here to be able to wedge behind it. Let's see if that'll play nice with this. You'll see that this is going to pull away from that gear. Alright, so about to the end where the bolt's going to end up hitting. And it's not pulling away from there, so that's under a lot of tension actually. So if that falls off, it's going to spring back a little bit. So what I'm going to do now is go around with my chisel just a little bit at a time and try to make some room. So I'll start with the little guy and I'll end up getting my bigger chisels. But just basically going to have to slowly wedge this thing off of the crank. Alright, so little progress at a time. So last time I did this, I actually ended up grinding off like a pie wedge out of one side of it, which may have freed it up a little bit, but right now I've got 3 chisels in it, trying to work it from the back just to get it off the crank, and it's not loving it. That's where I'm at. I'm gonna keep going. Okay, so this finally separated. So then we've got, here's what's left. And we haven't come much off of the crank. It's right at that difference in the lip right there. But we've got some gap coming along. So I'm gonna keep going side to side. I'm trying to come off evenly. So I need to work on this side a little bit more. Close. The thing is still so tight on there. Let me work that out. Okay, so the gap's big enough now that my chisel isn't wide enough, so I got a shim on this side, hoping that'll give me what I need. And I'll just do that back and forth. So that reluctor ring snapped off. Get that off. Okay. So it's finally off. I mean, how asinine is this process? So when it tells you to buy the Dorman, you know what? I'll find the part number, put it in the description. But what a pain in the ass. That's unnecessary. I don't know why they're making this part. It's supposed to spin, because when you align the tool, it spins into place, and then you just friction lock it down. So anyway, that's why you don't buy this Dorman harmonic balancer for the 2.0 turbo in the Ford in 2013. Any questions, comments, put them down below. We'll see if we can help each other out on this one. Thanks.